So from the earlier video, we stopped here. We mentioned that freedom is not absolute. Any freedom is not absolute, but the freedom of expression and of the press as well are not likewise absolute. There is no general or absolute permissibility that anybody can just say anything. Um, However, well, this is not absolute. There is the recognition that of the freedoms that people enjoy. This is one of the most pervasive because this allows for so much participation of the people in the affairs of the state. Um, in our personal relationships, we also acknowledge that the freedom is not absolute because we cannot just vilify each other. We cannot just say anything ill against each other because of our value for our reputation. Ano. So there are um, restrictions to free speech. Speech, again, not being absolute, be it one of prior restraint or of subsequent punishment. When you speak of prior restraint, this is the restriction on the press or other form of expression before it is uttered, while subsequent punishment um, provides for penalties in case of wrongful speech or penalties for speech after the same has been made. So that there is nothing wrong with governmental prior restraint or subsequent punishment because this is the essence of injunction and of criminal law that we be made to answer subsequently as we are punished for some wrong committed or for injunction for injunctive relief if there is a threat of any danger um, by one against another, but not again not all prior restraints therefore and subsequent punishments are prohibited, but we recognize that um, prior restraint may be permitted if it has legitimate ends. For example, um, system of licensing. You know, example, before you can broadcast over the radio, you must have a license, to be on air. Generally, if you're a professional media man or a personal radio operator, um, judicial prior restraint injunction on publication, especially if the threatened publication is obscene, for example, or harmful to the welfare of the society. Imposition of license taxes that renders publication or advertising burdensome. That's the essence of taxation. It is for governmental revenue. It is supposed to be burdensome. But again, this system of prior restraint could be subjected to abuses, no? When when you over license or maliciously prohibit the issuance of permits, no? Or overburden with taxation for the purpose of repressing expression. Also, in the in jurisprudence, it is recognized that during war, government can prevent publication about the number and location of the troops. That's a prior restraint. No? Or those which are contrary to public morals and public policy, as the case of press as Nebraska Press Association versus U.S. Those relating to obscene publications, for example. Those are American jurisprudence, but we have adopted them in our jurisprudence in essence, actually. But when a law or a system of prior restraint is implemented by the state, it has the heavy burden um, before the state, no, any system of prior restraint on expression comes to the court bearing a heavy presumption against its constitutional validity. There is one instance where there is an exception to the general rule that statutes are presumed as constitutional. Diba? Remember in your judicial review, statutes as well as any governmental actions are presumed to be constitutional. But if it's a system of prior restraint, a governmental policy or law, the presumption is against its constitutional validity. Therefore, the burden shifts from the person questioning the constitutionality to the state. There is thus a reversal of the normal presumption of validity that inheres in every legislation. So any system of prior restraint is deemed to be unconstitutional. Some cases, GMA versus COMELEC, there was a prior requirement for the notification of COMELEC as to who would be guesting during TV shows, no? During the campaign period. That is not prior restraint. It is just notification to allow COMELEC to regulate the guesting of candidates to allow for fair elections. This case, I recall this case of Chavez versus Gonzales, also relating to the Garciliano tapes, where the petitioner opposed the publication of the Hello Garci tapes, citing potential or possible imminent evil, no, when the tapes are released. According to the Supreme Court, the restrictions on the publication must be seen in relation to the actual or the real threats. No? Prior restraint on speech based on the context in this case cannot be justified by hypothetical fears, but only by showing a substantive and imminent evil that has taken the life of a reality already on the ground. So yung kinakatakutan nilang instability, uprising, because the tapes will be published, it will cause discontent and the likes. That's merely hypothetical. Consider it, it's the near possibility of the threat before implementing prior restraint. So subsequent punishment is also disallowed, but if it may be permitted as for legitimate consequences for a wrong, for penal, civil, or administrative penalties. According to the Supreme Court, in the same case of Chavez versus Gonzales, subsequent punishment is seen as a threat to legitimate expression, because of the mockery and the proposition that liberty of the press will be rendered a mockery and a delusion if while every man is at liberty to publish what he pleases, the public authorities might nevertheless punish him for harmless publications. This is subsequent punishment. No? You are given the semblance of free expression, even for legitimate expression, but even for legitimate expression, you are penalized thereafter. That's subsequent punishment. Again, it's not absolute prohibited because it may be the remedy or the consequence of penal, civil, or administrative actions. Soriano versus LaGuardia, there's here a distinction between prior restraint and subsequent punishment. Here, in the case of Soriano, where the program Tamang Daan was suspended from airing, it was in the nature of subsequent punishment and not a prior restraint, because the suspension of the airing of Ang Dating Daan was a consequence of the fighting words of Soriano on public television, public and free television, accessible to young kids. Okay. Suffice it to reiterate that the sanction imposed on the TV program in question does not, under the factual milieu of the case, constitute prior restraint but partakes of the nature of subsequent punishment for past violations committed by the petitioner. So, when you speak of restraint, when you speak of restraint or prior restraint, you have content-based restraint and content-neutral restraint. Content-based restraint is aimed at the substance or the content of the expression. Kung ano yung gustong sabihin ng expression, like in an opinion, in a newspaper, or a tabloid, or a column, ano yung substance. While content neutral is not on the substance but on the circumstances of the expression. Where was the expression made? When was it made? You consider the time, place, and the circumstances of the expression, not the substance. So these two are the restraints, no? Of course, when you say content-based, if the content of the expression is it threatens national security or of reputations of people, then it could be restrained, the content, no? Content neutral, it could be, if you think about it, on the time and place, like actually in subsequent lectures, we will know that you cannot just hold a rally outside of the court, and also you need a permit to rally on public roads. Those are content neutral, has nothing to do with content. So first is content based. This is popularly known as censorship. The restriction is based on the subject matter of the utterance or speech. Because censorship is frowned upon, the courts considers content-based restraints as almost always suspicious. The great care is taken by the court in assessing the legitimacy of the intentions in a restraint that is content-based. Is merely concerned with the content neutral, on the other hand, is based on the incidence of the speech, or one that merely controls the time, place, or manner of expression. We'll go back to this later. But unlike content-based, content-neutral restraint is not heavily burdened with suspicion. It is with lesser heightened scrutiny by the courts. This case of New Sounds Broadcasting Incorporated versus D. This is on the prohibition of the broadcast of a radio station because they were to be relocated or prohibited from continuing their operation because of, I think, the location of their radio station, which is not within the zone, the commercial zone, I think. So, I think kasama dito si Grace Padaka. They were staunch critics of the local government, but the local government found a way to prohibit them from further operating by the disallowance of their continued operation because of their lack of permit to operate in the area. Supposedly, it is only content neutral kasi permit matters, no? But the Supreme Court said here, look at the context. These broadcasters were the staunch critics of the LGU, the same mayor who prohibited their further operation. So malice was found by the court. This is content-based and not content-neutral. So for content-based regulations, you have the dangerous tendency test and the clear and present danger test. These are the most popular tests for content-based regulations. Dangerous tendency test, from the case of Patterson versus Colorado, has it that government can punish a speech that merely creates a bad or dangerous tendency of the evil sought to be prevented. Only a tendency, not an actuality, only the tendency. While the clear and present danger, there should be a clear and present danger that will bring about a substantive evil that Congress has the right to prevent. This is not merely a tendency, but a more proximate evil because of the utterance. Consider, for example, content neutral, yung parang you shout bomb, bomba, granada in the middle of an isolated open space, that has the tendency to cause panic. Only the tendency. But there is no actuality, or proximity of possibility. But if you shout bomba or granada in the middle of a park or a movie house, there exists a clear and present danger. Hindi lang tendency, but a real danger that you could cause panic. So similar to that in analogy. Any expression that only causes tendency of evil that is addressed by the clear and present the dangerous tendency test. A clear and present danger, ito yung the proximity of the danger. The problem is the thing is, most of the decisions are on the matter of the clear and present danger, because we have moved to that era where we look for the more proximate danger rather than a tendency. But the Supreme Court in the U.S. Said that neither of that. Okay. There is in the clear and present danger, kasi siya ang pinaka accepted na norm ngayon na test, because the dangerous tendency test seems to be over restrictive of expression, as I will give an example later. Well, the clear and present danger allows for a free exchange of ideas. Brandeis, Justice Brandeis of the U.S. Supreme Court said that actually the dangerous tendency and tawag nito, the clear and present danger test must be set aside, because what is the anti venom of bad speech is free speech. But for me, it's more chaotic. It's more chaotic if we slander each other, if we threaten each other, because the only remedy to bad speech is more speech. More people will talk and it will sow more confusion. That just is me, no? But let's go to this example ng dangerous tendency. Bakit siya delikado, Kasi itong batas, itong anti-terror law, actually na-address na ito ng Supreme Court. Section 4 seems to be very ambiguous because it penalizes any action that is considered as an act of terror if it intimidates the general public and seriously undermines public safety. Ito yung red tagging. So let's say kung magrally ang mga tao, na ay the police, the law enforcers will have the unbridled discretion to declare that it's meant to intimidate the general public and it threatens public safety. Kasi nasa kanila ang determination Kasi dito nakalagay, look at section 4, terrorism is as defined in the section shall not include advocacy, protest, dissent, stoppage of work, industrial or mass action, and other similar exercises of civil and political rights. So look at this provision. It seems to protect civil rights, which are not intended to cause death or serious physical harm to a person or endanger a person's life or create serious risk to public safety. So who will determine that? It's the law enforcement. No? And they could use that to red tag people by just saying itong rally na ito, itong mass action na ito, threatens public safety. So yun ang dangerous tendency. No? Only the tendency. So actually, na-decide na ito ng Supreme Court itong for future cases. Okay. So there are other laws, content-based restrictions under the revised penal code, inciting to sedition, inciting to war, inciting to sedition, or inciting to rebellion or insurrection. Let's go to libel on the next lecture.